A little while ago, Sane Smart reached out to me, wanted to know if they could send me the Genmitsu 4040 CNC machine in exchange for a video review. So that is what this is going to be right here. This is going to be 100% solely my opinions and my thoughts on this machine. So let's get into it. First impressions of this machine are, wow, this thing is really sturdy. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know anything really about this company, and I wasn't sure at the price point if this machine was going to be nearly as solid as it is, but this thing is really solid. It has thick Y rails and a really nice, probably even maybe twice as thick X rail right here. The way this thing is constructed, there are all kinds of sliding T-nuts and integrated slots for all the bolts to go through. So this thing will not rack at all. There is no twisting, there's no racking. This thing does not shake at all on the workbench or the tabletop or whatever you're gonna put this thing on. This thing is really solid. The rollers all seem nice, and the tensioning cable usually is something that I'm a little bit concerned about, but they left a couple of little keyholes in the front and in the back, so any of that extra tensioning cable can stick through there, and then it's really easy to tension if it gets to the point where you need to do that. And they've done the same thing on the X-axis over on this side. Seems like it's really easy. I hate doing maintenance. I hate stopping to do the maintenance and take care of something. So if it gets to the point where the maintenance does need to be done, I love it to be easy. I love it to be quick. And that's what this seems like. It seems like they've thought of that as well. And maybe they had me in mind and they put those little keyholes in there, but I'm not worried at all about the tensioning cable on this machine. One thing that I wasn't expecting, and a really nice little touch, is this MDF spoil board. This comes with threaded inserts from underneath, and in their extra material package there, they have some metal clamps that you can just use some wing nuts and some thumb screws to hold your material down to this wasteboard. Anybody that's watched my channel at all knows that I'm not a fan of metal clamps, so I will be installing my own OOPS clamps onto this thing, but that is a really nice feature. A nice secondary feature of this MDF spoil board is it has some through holes on the front and the back, and it gives you some bolts to lock that into these front and back rails. So that just adds one more level of rigidity and security to this whole machine, making it even more solid. This thing will not rack, it will not twist, it will not rattle. I am very pleased, and I'm going to be honest, I love the way it looks. A couple things to note. In my package of extra parts, they gave me a little case with some bits in there. All the bits had this protective blue coating just to keep the bits in good condition while I got them. I assumed there was going to be this variety pack, and it's not. They are all these, I believe, 30-degree V-bits. They all are exactly the same. So I can't test this thing out today, but curiosity is killing me. So I think I'm going to chuck one of those 30-degree V-bits into here, and I think I'm just going to run a file. I'm just going to carve a word and just see how it does, see how long it takes, see how this whole machine ends up holding up. And then I ordered an 1/8" end mill, so I'm going to get that tomorrow in the mail. Then I can actually start testing this thing and put it through its paces. But the curiosity is absolutely killing me. There are 2 points of concern that I can notice right off the bat here. I don't know how they're going to end up being, only time will tell. The first one is this spindle. I don't know how strong this thing is going to end up being. Time will tell on that, how it holds up, and if there's any kind of chatter or anything like that in your bit. If your bit starts to chatter and it wobbles real bad, you're going to get bad results on your workpiece. And then also this main wire harness and this main cable back here, there's no strain relief. So as this X-axis moves back and forth, the wire is just bending and opening and bending and opening. So I don't know how the cumulative effect over time will affect those wires and how they hold up. There are quite a bit of wires there. If I had to guess, just looking at this, I would say there's 22 wires there. So maybe just the sheer volume of wires gives it added strength to where they can kind of move and flex that little bit, and it won't be a big deal. Again, one of the things time will tell. But other than that, this thing is solid. This thing is labeled correctly. The assembly instructions are easy to follow. They give you a nice little kit with all the bolts and everything's labeled just to make it super easy. I decided to really test this thing out, and I wanted to use this Christmas tree file here. Not only is it topical for this time of year, but I figured this would test this machine and just see how accurate this thing is going to be. It's got a lot of sharp outside corners, and then it has a lot of rounded inside edges as well. So I thought this was the perfect file. With this thing being 3 different layers, once all 3 are cut out, I can stack them on top of each other and see just how precise this machine is. This thing turned out really well. Everything stacked up perfectly just like it should. All the nubs on the inside to hold those lights are exactly the sizes they need to be. And I think this tree turned out really, really well. So my overall thoughts of this thing are, this thing is pretty good. Especially if you want to just jump into CNCing, you want to see what it's all about, you want to dip your toe, and just decide, even if you want to do something like this, if this is the hobby for you. I think this is a really good machine. Normally this machine retails for $450, and from now until December 6th, they're going to knock 20% off of that. So you can get this machine for $360, and they also offer free shipping. I think that is a great deal. One thing that I did notice was I could hear the bit in the spindle sort of bogging down and a little bit of that chatter I was talking about in the beginning of the video. But I think that's my fault again. I think I bought just way too cheap of a bit. I bought a 4-pack on Amazon. Actually, I think it's a 5-pack on Amazon for like 20 bucks. So that means that bit's only $4. I think I need to invest in a high quality bit from a more reputable website that sells CNC bits. And I think that would definitely take care of the problem with the chatter, because when I ran my first file, which were these clamps here, it did pretty well. I didn't hear or notice any of that chatter. And then when I got to the 3rd layer of this tree here, I did notice some of that chattering. And I think that is just because the bit was complete crap. It wasn't able to hold up. It didn't last. So it started off good with my first file, and by the time I got to the 4th quote unquote file here, the 3rd of this tree, I think that bit was already starting to wear down. So I think if you invest in a high quality bit, that chatter will be gone, and I think you'll actually be able to run your spindle and the whole CNC a little bit faster, which will cut down on total project time. Overall, I think this thing is a great value, and I think it's a good machine. I think this is a really nice machine to get started. I think the price point not being too high, and just the robustness of this, I think you're gonna get great value. Like I was saying in the beginning of the video, this thing is solid. There's no racking, there's no twisting. I think this thing is gonna stay true for a long time, and if it does start to come out of true just a little bit, there are a ton of different attachment points on here that you could just tighten up a little bit and just square it up if you have to, but I don't really see that happening. With this spindle only being an 1/8 inch collet on there, so you can only run an 1/8 inch bit, I don't think that's going to cause too many lateral forces on this thing. I think it's going to stay good for a long time. So I think with these Zoop style clamps here, I think if you happen to run into a clamp there, you're not going to break that bit. That's going to help too. I think if you invest in a much better bit than the crap little 5-pack that I bought, I think that's going to help a lot. But even with the crappy bit, I was able to cut this. This is one of my favorite files right here. It's very topical for this time of year. I'll have a link down in the description for this file as well. But if you're going to get a machine, I think this is one to get. I don't think you could go wrong, especially for $360.